McFarland Partners has now stepped up with $1 million in seed money for the project.
Pershing Square Renew is all about, it's a symbol for the larger transformation and renewal that we're seeing in downtown Los Angeles.
And there is more money on the way.
The improvements could take years, but there are also plans for the short term. The city has acquired a $1 million grant it will use to build a playground here. Groundbreaking could happen sometime in the early spring.
The project should be completed in 2020. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
And Broadway downtown, also in Councilman Huizar's district, gets a new, more pedestrian-friendly look. City leaders calling for a change in policy to allow gay men to donate blood. And utility boxes in one harbor community get a sprucing up. These stories in City Beat. Councilman Jose Huizar helped celebrate the completion of Phase 1 of the Broadway Streetscape Master Plan, which includes reducing a traffic lane to create larger pedestrian space along the historic Broadway corridor in downtown LA. The plan is part of the councilman's revitalization initiative called Bringing Back Broadway.
We wanted to extend the sidewalks, put more trees and planters and tables and chairs and umbrellas so people could really feel like they're in a plaza-type environment. We took 4 lanes. Now we have 3 lanes. It is the largest road diet in the history of the city of LA.
This phase is referred to as a dress rehearsal since temporary materials such as oversized planters will be replaced with permanent building materials later on. The new pedestrian plaza will span 10 city blocks in the heart of downtown. Council members Mitch O'Farrell and Mike Bonin have introduced a resolution calling for an end to the federal policy that prohibits gay men from donating blood at donation drives, adding Los Angeles to the list of major cities to take a position on the controversial federal policy. The resolution has the support of the American Red Cross and the Los Angeles LGBT Center. The current Federal Food and Drug Administration policy was first established in 1983 when the FDA had no way of testing blood or plasma for HIV. But the American Medical Association, which also opposes the decades-long ban, says the FDA policy is not based on sound science. Instead, it recommends that each donor be evaluated on an individual basis. First, the utility boxes in Boyle Heights got their makeover. Now the ones in Wilmington are also getting a similar treatment. Councilman Joe Buscaino participated in a bike ride through Wilmington on a recent Saturday, during which the newly painted utility art boxes were unveiled.
We're taking ownership through art of our utility art project. There's one right here.
The walk and ride, led by the group I Heart Wilmington, made its way down Avalon Boulevard, finishing at Banning Park, where hundreds then enjoyed the return of the Wilmington family picnic. It's known as El Grito de Dolores, that cry by Mexican peasants that called for freedom from their Spanish conquerors. Now, centuries later, not only Mexicans but Angelenos celebrate that victory call. Ana Marcos takes us to the steps of City Hall for the party.
With that shout and a ringing of the bell, LA kicked off its El Grito celebration. The Mexican holiday, celebrated by Latinos and Angelenos, honors Mexico's independence from Spain more than 200 years ago. But El Grito also means different things to different people.
I think it means like a yell of celebration for independence.
Well, El Grito is an opportunity for Los Angeles to celebrate its rich heritage. Like myself, son of Mexican immigrants.
It's great to celebrate the independence of Mexico here in the city of Los Angeles. After all, we have the second most Mexicans, only second to Mexico City.
We all can relate to the struggles for liberation.
The mariachis sang and strutted their stuff. The audience danced and waved flags. And what's a Latin celebration without the crowning of a queen or two? But while Mexicans may have won their independence, here in the U.S., many Latinos face a different kind of struggle. For Councilmember Gil Cedillo, it's all about lobbying for immigration reform.
There's new issues and new struggles that are part of this tradition. Today, we're concerned about driver's license for immigrants, and the city's doing a great job in creating the infrastructure to prepare people to be licensed, tested, and insured. We have an open heart and open arms for the young people who are at the border. We are concerned about their constitutional rights.
For Latinos, the end of one struggle celebrated, even as another kicks into high gear. I'm Ana Marcos for LA This Week.
In this week's list of things to do, a walk at the Silver Lake Reservoir, a celebration of cultural diversity at the zoo, and Noah's Ark. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power is inviting you to join LADWP officials for an informative 3.5-mile walk around the Silver Lake Ivanhoe Reservoir Complex on Saturday, September 27th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. The event will highlight the history of the facility, LADWP's water infrastructure, and the importance of water quality and water conservation in Los Angeles. Park on the street and enter at the gate located across from 2141 West Silver Lake Drive. Wear sturdy closed-toe shoes, hats, sunscreen, and bring water bottles and snacks. No bikes allowed. And to protect water quality, no dogs or other animals are allowed on the reservoir perimeter. The Los Angeles Zoo will be hosting a Hispanic Heritage Celebration on Saturday and Sunday, September 27th and 28th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on both days. The event will celebrate Central and South America by highlighting the diversity of cultures and animals that hail from those regions. Activities include crafts, live musical performances, and of course, the animals themselves entertaining visitors. The event is free with paid zoo admission or zoo membership. The zoo is located at 5333 Zoo Drive. Go to lazoo.org. And if you haven't taken your child to the Skirball Noah's Ark permanent exhibit, run, don't walk. The exhibit, 5 years in the making and occupying an 8,000-square-foot gallery, is inspired by the ancient flood story, which has parallels in diverse cultures around the world. Kids and adults can climb and explore the exhibit, help construct the ark, and mingle with hundreds of handcrafted animals made from recycled materials. This one-of-a-kind new destination invites visitors of all generations to have fun while learning the value of community. The Skirball Cultural Center is located at 2701 North Sepulveda Boulevard. Go to skirball.org for ticket information and other details. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Hi, my name's Louie, and I'm at Pan Pacific Park, and you're watching LA City View 35. It's our city, it's our channel.
Los Angeles City Council. Today is Wednesday, September 24th. Herman, please don't disrupt the meeting again. We've got a busy agenda, and if you're going to stand up and clap when you're not speaking at the podium, we're going to ask that you're disrupting the meeting and suggest that you leave the chamber. So please, I know you know the rules, and you follow them well sometimes. So, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumen, Filbana, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Huizar, Carrasco, Corin, Labons, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Great, thank you very much. And first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Okay, Mr. Labange moves, Mr. Huizar seconds.
Mr. President, that brings us to commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, Mr. Blumenfeld moves, Mr. Buscaino seconds.
Before getting into today's agenda, there's been a request from the Department of Building and Safety that items 1C and 1E be received and filed inasmuch as the liens have been paid in full, and that item 1I be received and filed inasmuch as the lien was partially rescinded and the remaining balance was paid in full.
And that'll be the order without objection. The remaining items on that?
Very good, sir. Yes, there are. So that brings us to items 1 and 2. They're items noticed for public hearing. We do have cards on both.
Okay, we've got cards on both. We'll go ahead and hold those on the desk for now.
Very good, sir. Items 3 and 4 are items for which public hearings have been held. A committee report for item 4 has been circulated.
Okay, on item 3, we'll go ahead and take item 3 then. Oh, I'm sorry, let's see here. Let's hold that as well. No, we'll go ahead and take item 3. And is the commissioner here as well? Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Thank you, Ms. Winnick. All right. If you is Mr. Labange present? Not yet. Yes.
He was just here.
Mr. Labange, did you want to introduce Ms. Winnick?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Labange. For the commissioner, we're going to do the commission appointment first. That's okay. Throwing you off, keeping you on your toes.
Good morning, members of the council, and to the public that's here today. Our Los Angeles Zoo is one of the greatest zoos in the country, and for over 15 years, this commissioner has served us well, first starting in the Reardon administration, the Hahn administration, Villaraigosa administration, and now the Garcetti administration. Karen Winnick is a person who listens and acts for the benefit of children, young and old alike. Strongly recommend. Karen, tell us a few words about your passion and the belief of the zoo. And also, members, note this year, with money that I used to have from the CRA, I'm looking at Mitch, who got that district money from redistricting, I sent some to the zoo. We're opening it up for the Holiday Light Festival this year, and your districts are all going to be involved. Ms. Winnick, say a few words.
I'm pleased to be here before the commission, the council. I want to say that my background is that I write and illustrate children's books, and children and animals are my passion, and I feel it's so important for children to be able to come to the zoo and learn about animals and care about them. And zoos have transformed over the last 30, 35 years. They've become arcs for working to save endangered species. Animals are threatened everywhere in their natural habitat, and again, zoos are working to preserve them and to help preserve them in their natural habitat as well. So I'm very grateful to be able to do a very small part in helping to be involved with the zoo.
Great, thank you.
It's a wonderful institution.
Great.
It really is.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much. Seeing no members on the queue, we'll go ahead and open the roll for your confirmation.
Thank you.
Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Forthwith, without objection. We've also got, I just noticed Jimmy in the front row, a dear friend of mine. And since you're here, I'm going to ask you to step up, Jimmy, if you don't mind. Now, council members, colleagues, the public, we've got a special treat if Jimmy is in the room. And typically, it's our tradition every Tuesday to do the flag salute. I'm going to ask Mr. Labange to bring him up and lead us in that today.
I got it. Before we do, just a second, Jimmy Weldon, give him a big hand here in Los Angeles County. 91. He's 91 yesterday. 91 yesterday. World War II veteran. Get in here. And another veteran, Isaac Burks. Bring the flag out, Isaac. They have to stand or sit.
Sit down. For me to do this first?
Yeah.
No, they have to be seated.
All right, we're going to have everybody seat for a minute there, Mr. Englander and Isaac Burks, a United States Marine. Good to see you, Isaac. Thank you very much. We're going to get this flag set up for you. And I don't do this too often, but fellas, if you want a good shot, roll your cameras, Mark. This is a very special human being. Here we go right there. Hold on, Jimmy. We're fixing the flag right there. Veteran of World War II, and for many, many years worked for Hanna-Barbera as one of their great animators and
I'm
voices.
the last guy alive in the Yogi Bear show.
That's
the little
right.
duck said, "Help, choppers, you're after me." He said, wait, this one line quickly. One line quickly. Chopper says, Yaki, now that you're safe, tell me, where's your mama? The little duck always answered sadly, I don't have your mama. Would you be my mama? Did that 51 years ago.
Now, Jimmy, I've known you for many, many years. In fact, I've had your CDs on the flag salute, and had my kids growing up listening to that as well. If you can entertain us with that, let me tell you, folks, this is all off the cuff. This is all memorized, nothing read, from the heart by a true superhero in our country. Jimmy, the mic is yours.
Thank you, sir. All right, can I have the flag over here? Old Glory is under attack as never before. Please look at this old friend as I bring you a message from the very heart of Old Glory. I am the flag of the United States of America, conceived in the dreams of liberty and the hopes of freedom. I was designed by the hands of Betsy Ross, and her sewing basket was my cradle. Though I was never an orphan, I was adopted by the Continental Congress in 1777 and proclaimed the national emblem of a nation newly born on this continent, fighting valiantly for survival and destined to bring to all mankind a new concept in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I rode with Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys at the Battle of Fort Bennington. I was flown above the decks of Old Ironsides and the masts of Yankee clippers. I blazed the trail with Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett. I led the settlers coming west and crossed Death Valley in a covered wagon. Once I fell to the ground at Custer's last stand with a Little Bighorn. There were no living hands left to pick me up. But I galloped up the slopes of San Juan Hill with Colonel Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders in the United States Cavalry. I was carried through the halls of Montezuma onto the shores of Tripoli by the United States Marine Corps. I stayed with the boys till it was over there on the battlefields of the Marne, Chateau Thierry, St. Mihiel, and the Argonne Forest. I saw many of the youth and manhood of our nation fall and lie still in death. They'd given their last full measure of blood. The war was over for them forever, but I kept my lonely vigil over their graves and stayed to watch the poppies grow amid the crosses, row on row, in Flanders Field. I was raised by 6 brave Marines and sailors during the hell of Iwo Jima in the final hours of World War II. I haven't changed much. 238 years. I still have my regional 13 stripes. But as each state came to the Union, a new star was proudly added to the constellation of my blue field. Started with 13, now there are 50. I've draped the caskets of our nation's heroes and borne to their last resting place the bodies of presidents, generals, admirals, humble privates, and the unknown soldier. Wherever free men gather, wherever there's justice, equality, faith, hope, charity, truth, and brotherly love, there too am I. When you stand with your hand over your heart and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to me, don't merely mouth the words, but think of what they mean to you and mean what you say. And when you come to the phrase, one nation under God, remember, it matters not what your religious belief. It only matters that you hold your faith dear, that you practice it daily, and that you preserve it forever. History will never write my obituary, for I am the stars and stripes forever. I'm Old Glory. I'm your flag. I am you.
Oh, Jimmy! Hey! All right. Look at that, Jimmy. You don't get that. All right. Thank you. Look at all the people there, Jimmy. Look around there, Jimmy. All these people. Good job. Okay.
Now that you're standing, let's now declare the greatest nation on the face of this earth as we proudly and loudly say together, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Stay here, man. Hey, Mr. President, members, this is Jimmy Weldon Day in the city of Los Angeles, Flag Day every year. Give him a big hand, Jimmy Weldon. Thank you so much. Good job, man. We're off stage now. Good job. They're going to get that shot.
Hey, Jimmy. You say God bless America. We all say God bless Jimmy Weldon. Thank you, sir, very much for that. Appreciate everything.
Here we go, right here.
A true American hero. Thank you, Jimmy. All right. We've got another presentation.
Mr. President,
yes.
would you care to finish running through the agenda?
Oh, yes. Go. I'm sorry. Let's
Items
go ahead
5
do
and
that.
6 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay. Items 5 and 6. We'll go ahead and consider those without objection. Will be the order.
Very good.
Item 5.
Mr. President, we do have cards on both matters.
Of course. We'll go ahead and hold those on the desk as well. And that should conclude the agenda items. Okay. And we have... Great. Then we'll go ahead and turn it over to Councilmember Paul Koretz for a presentation.
Well, good morning, colleagues. I'm delighted to help host what is a first, because for the first time here in our city council, we're joining with the Jewish Federation of Los Angeles and their representative, who I think will be here in a couple minutes, and the Israeli Consul General in celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year that begins at sundown tonight. And I'd like to ask my esteemed colleagues, Bob Blumenfield and Mitch Englander, to join me up here if they'd like. I'd like to invite them to do that. And we may be joined in the course of this by a couple of our citywide officials who I know are running a little late. This will be the Hebrew year of 5775, so it's my great pleasure to wish everybody a happy, healthy, and wonderful New Year, and Shana Tova. Of course, we've had other New Year's celebrations and festivities in this chamber, such as our Persian New Year celebration. And in each and every instance, we rejoice in the hope and the promise of joy, peace, prosperity, good health, well-being, and new friendships. The year that's ending has had some more somber aspects, and it's fair to say in the past year, our globe has known terror, conflict, economic and environmental distress, and challenges that remain intense. So there's much to contemplate as we take stock, but there's an opportunity now for renewed resolve, full of the vitality and sweetness of a well-lived life in a city and world filled with people willing and eager to live in harmony. I do want to mention this past year for me has been especially notable. because I overcame my fear of flying and finally traveled to Israel for the first time, thanks in large part to the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles. And it was a trip that truly touched my heart and made me a better and more complete person. So I thank the Federation for helping to make that happen. And now, without further ado, I'd like to ask Councilmember Bob Blumenfield to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Thank you both for being here, Mr. Koretz, for organizing this. You know, it's the holiest time in the Jewish year when we come to this New Year's time. It's a time to think about your sins of the year, and you know, throughout this time period, we reflect on ourselves and we reflect on our community, how to make ourselves better, how to make their community better. And the other tradition, you have the apples and honey, which I think we'll talk about, is the shofar blast that we hear on Rosh Hashanah. It's not just a ritual that's done, or a commandment or a mitzvah. It's a call to action. And I think it's important when we talk about the shofar blowing, talk about this holiday, because a call to action knows no religion. It is something for all of us to heed and say, every year to reflect and say there is a call to action. We need to be better to ourselves. We need to make our communities better. We need to make our districts better. We need to make ourselves better. So this is a holiday of reflection. I'm glad to be here to share it with all of you, and to be here when Paul's brought the shofar and is about to do a song on the shofar. No. But with that, I just wanted to wish everybody in Los Angeles and in this chamber Shana Tova, a sweet and happy New Year. Thank you. Thank you.
I know that Mr. Englander would like to say a few words as well.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. This is also a special Jewish New Year that only comes but once every 7. And it is the year of Shemitah. And for those of you that don't know, for many Israeli farmers, they've spent months preparing for this biblically mandated event that comes just once every 7 years, in which fields and orchards managed by the Jews in the Holy Land must lie fallow for the entire year. In fact, the Bible says that we shouldn't plant crops, don't lay new grass, just take care of what exists, and don't do anything new. The sabbatical year is mentioned several times, in which Israelites are told, for 6 years you shall work your fields and harvest the crops, but during the 7th year you let the land lie unplowed and unused. You prepare for it the year before, so there's plenty to last for the year. But then there's this. For the 7th year, you shall let the poor, you shall let all religions, you shall let all people eat for free, eat from the fields, harvest the vineyards, and attend to the olive groves. This is true of the Israelites, the Jewish people, and not opening just their homes, but their fields, their food, and their labor to share with everybody. And so this truly is a symbolic time, and I wish everybody a happy New Year. Thank you.
And now, thank you, Mitch. Now I'd like to ask Jay Sanderson, the CEO of the Jewish Federation, to speak. And I would just say the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles is a constant source of remarkable good, both for our city and the world, and it makes a tangible impact on the lives of tens of thousands of people, not only here and in Israel, but in 70 countries across the world. So I'd like to ask Jay to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Paul, and I'd like to thank the City Council and the City of Los Angeles for inviting me and recognizing this important Jewish holiday. As you've heard, Rosh Hashanah is symbolic of looking backwards and looking forward. I think all of us would agree in the City of Los Angeles, in the United States of America, and in the world, this has been a very challenging year. And as the head of the Jewish Federation, our goal is to make Los Angeles a better place and the Jewish world a better place. So our wish for this next year is that we have a year filled with hope, that we see that the difficulties and challenges of this past year are resolved in some way, and that we can come together as a city, as a community, as a nation to do whatever is necessary to make sure that our country and our community is better than it was the year before, safer, and that Jews and people of all faiths, of all nationalities, can live in this community and in this world in peace. So I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you all for the work that you do for our community.
Shana Tova.
Thank you, Jay. And now we'd like to hear a few words from our absolutely beloved Consul General from the State of Israel, David Siegel.
Thank you, Council Member, and thank you to the City Council for inviting us today and for recognizing this remarkable day. It's the holiest month in the Jewish calendar. Rosh Hashanah is our most universal holiday because we celebrate the birth of mankind, of human beings, and it naturally leads us to contemplate the state of our being, what we need to do to improve ourselves. And the shofar call, which you hear on Rosh Hashanah, which is a broken call, is that reminder that we do live in a broken world, in a world that needs to be redeemed, in a world in which we all participate in trying to create a better surrounding, a better future for our community, for our city, for our country, and for the globe. The clarion call during Yom Kippur, which is 10 days later, is the call of where we would hope to be, which is the call of perfection, and this is what we all aspire to do. So Rosh Hashanah symbolically is that time of year where we contemplate the world around us, the brokenness of the world, and what we all need to do to participate in making it a bit better. And this is what Israel hopes to do. I join in these prayers that the coming year be a year of peace, of safety for people around the world. Obviously, the Middle East is in deep pain. We see it from everything from what we experienced this summer to the crisis around ISIS now, and we see millions of human beings that need help, and we all hope and pray that the next year and the next decade and our future will be better than what we've seen. But we're hopeful. Israel is an oasis. We partner together with you on fighting the drought, on food security, on doing all the things that need to be done to make this a better place. And this is our hope and our commitment to the coming years. So thank you very much for joining today and inviting us to be here to mark this remarkable day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Consul General. And now I'd like to blow the shofar, the ram's horn. I'd like to, but I won't, actually, because I would get a couple inaudible squeaks out of it only. So I'm going to ask Rabbi Jonathan Klein, who actually does know how to do this.
I think we double dare you.
Not going to happen, but Rabbi Jonathan Klein, if you'd like to say a couple words and then to blow the ceremonial shofar for us.
We're also joined by our city attorney, Mike Fuhrer. Let's give him a round of applause.
Actually, now that our city attorney has magically appeared in the proverbial nick of time, we'd like to have him say a few words first.
No, it's perfect timing here. So, I just want to add that all of us in Los Angeles have an opportunity to join with the Jewish community as we look to a new year that offers the promise of bringing us closer together, offers the promise of all of us reaching out and lifting up everybody in our city so Los Angeles can truly be the world-leading community that all of us aspire to. So Happy New Year to all our friends in the Jewish community, and Happy New Year to all of us in the city of Los Angeles. A sweet, marvelous year to come.
Now, Rabbi Jonathan Klein for the blowing of the shofar.
So I'll say very briefly that the word shofar has embedded within it the word lehishtaper, which means to improve. This is a city that is constantly trying to improve itself, and lehishtaper really means to improve oneself. So as we enter into a new year, and I'll try to blow this, I'm not the best, but I might be better than Paul. I ask that we all find ways to both improve ourselves and continue to move forward to raise Los Angeles to a better place. Thank you.
And we have apples and honey for all of the council members. Unfortunately, I don't think we really timed this with the expectation of this entire crowd, so I apologize for not having it for everybody in the crowd. But we wish everybody a very sweet year, and we all pray that this is a peaceful one as well. Thank you so much for participating in this new year with us.
Thank you very much. Let's wish everybody a happy new year. Lashana Tova. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if we can take items 1, 2, 5, and 6, we'll take those items together. And before we do that, on 1G, we're going to continue that for 2 weeks until October 8th. So without objection, we'll go ahead and continue that. Mr. Koretz.
Oh, my apologies. I missed one thing, which is to present a certificate as we begin the new year to the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles. Mr. Sanderson on behalf of them. And as well to the Consul General of Israel in Los Angeles.
All right. Thank you very much. And Mr. Fuhrer, thanks for coming down for this. Appreciate it. Happy New Year to you as well, and your family. Okay, with that, excuse me, we'll go ahead and on 1G again for 2 weeks until October 8th, and we'll take items 1, 2, 5, and 6. Those are all items that were pulled for cards. Mr. Walsh on items 1, item 2, item 5, and item 6. 1, 2, 5, and 6. Oh, sorry.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. It's a pleasure to be here at this momentous day when you're going to raise their salary, which they deserve.
You can stay on the agenda items, please. 1, 2, 5, and 6. Thank you. 1, 2, 5, and 6. Mr. Herman, excuse me for 1 second. Hold his time. If you're going to applaud again, I've warned you at the beginning of the meeting. If you're not speaking at the podium, Mr. Herman, then you're disrupting the meeting. And one more time, we'll ask you to leave. Okay? Thank you. Mr. Walsh, sorry to interrupt your time.
Number 1, this concerns the liens, nuisance abatement. You do a good job on that. Later on number 4, you're going to do an excellent job. Number 2, again, this is tax equity, financing construction and improvements at Woodbury University. Woodbury University doesn't need money. Woodbury University, incidentally, is non-union. Work there with a mop, and you don't get paid bupkis, nothing. Number 5, this concerns the Ethics Commission. They're doing a terrible job at the Ethics Commission. Mr. Gabriel Esparza, they want to give out prizes for voting. How about prizes? Look, my great-great-grandfather, Murphy, fought in the Civil War and was in the Revolutionary War. They didn't give him any damn prizes. He fought for the right to tell King George that he was an asshole. And if you don't want to fight the government and join the government, fine.
Again, it's not on. It's the city attorney's informed us. It's not on the subject matter. Stick to the subject matter.
Okay, number 6. Number 6 again is the National Football League. Get over it. They're not coming here. This city is a mess. Any place but L.A. That's the attitude of the National Football League, and you can BS them forever. I've been coming here since 1985, and all I hear is next month the NFL is coming back. Next month, next month, next month. It's not going to happen. And if it so I'm telling you, I don't need the entire 5 minutes. I'm very happy to be John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org, at J. Walsh Confidential. And when I went to work, the minimum wage was $1.25, and everybody said, the idiots, if you raise it to $1.50, all the small businesses will go out of business.
Again, you're not on the subject matter. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so items 1. Shh. Don't encourage him. Item 1, Nancy Kramer on items 1, 5. It looks like this is Herman, of course. Yeah. All right, now the entertaining portion.
Angelinos, this is not about
1, 5, and 6.
I'm talking about the illegal lien by Mr. Charles Hare. Yesterday's discussion, our councilman, pro temp, you, Mr. Englander, made that rude remark.
Stay again on
and I'm
the
sticking
subject
to the lien.
matter.
Today we have 2 liens on Herb Wesson. We're located at 2711 South Reiner Avenue for $1,900 and change. Again, 3070 West Olympic Boulevard, $1,000, $973 and change. How many more liens do you want on your properties? You think it's fair to put a lien on the property of people who want to have raises and live in L.A.? I don't think so, sir. Let's stick to topic, mister. That's about the liens. Item 1. Right, Mr. Parks? Your comment yesterday regarding the African American.
Do not address council
members. I'm talking
members.
about the liens, Mr. Englander.
Stick with the issue.
Going on item number 5, sir. Let me correct you. Items for public hearings have not been held. Item 10, votes required. Communication from the City Ethics Commission relative to the reappointment of Mr. Gabriel Espesarasba. Did I say that correctly, Mr. Englander? Correct me, please, if I'm wrong. Batman's never wrong, and we need more commissioners who are ethically right and vote. Now I'm going on item 6. This is where I save my time for all you. Do we really need a football team when we cannot hold a budget?
You shall address the council
Can we not hold
only.
a budget so that the people of Los Angeles can get raises equally, levelly, quadrantally, on a graph, sir? All you residents of Los Angeles, Batman's not lying. Is labor fair? Is labor fair? Because if I'm wrong, the people behind me will stand up and show you that I am right. Fair raises to bring football teams is not an issue. How many jobs do you expect these people to leave our hotels to get? Really? And I'm talking about the NFL, Mr. Krikorian. You get it, Mr. Krikorian?
Okay, again, you're not addressing the body. That's their 4th warning. 4th warning. Last warning.
The resolution, Labange, Fuentes, Cedillo, Price, Weezer. I am specifically talking to you, sir, Mr. Weezer. Should we have a budget for an NFL team? All you're going to do is bring more taxes upon the people to revitalize Los Angeles, which you promised, misusing public funds for the state of California. For the state of California, they misused public funds because we couldn't get an arena. No, we got Staples Center. Thank you, Magic Johnson. But again, NFL in LA, I say no. Until you can give us an itemized budget, a budget that gives fair raises to everyone in yellow shirts, to anyone in a yellow shirt, because again, the NFL is all about making money, and I'm about making money too for the city of Los Angeles. And guess what? Guess what? Is it really fair that I raise my voice as Batman here today? Let me speak into the mic to resolve and affirm, to support, not support, but to support, but not in light of this upcoming football season. Why? Because you didn't give us the Dodgers on TV. We had to pay for it. Remember? DirecTV.
The Dodgers are not on this item. You're in the wrong stadium.
Sports, sir. Sports. That's the problem with you. You guys don't listen to the public. You take advantage of the situation. Please sit down, sir. I'm speaking on the agenda.
He's actually disrupting the meeting now after several warnings.
Hold my time.
He's not only is he disrupting the meeting by arguing with the chair, but every time he turns around and speaks to the public, he's also disrupting the meeting.
And he's been warned.
He's entitled to speak to us.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and note that. I do appreciate Councilmember bringing that up.
Sir. In conclusion, it is horrible, insulting that we, after all these years, don't want to renovate the Coliseum. Let's bring back the Coliseum, give the people in the community their jobs in their own community and not in the bullshit we deal with today. Thank you, and have your 6 seconds.
Okay, so your time is up, so you're benched for the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Council President Herb Wesson for item 4, but let's go ahead and open the roll on those items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great, thank you very much.
So we have one more card on item 2, I've been informed. Do we have to vote on reconsideration? Or? Okay, it wasn't. So if we can get Mason. Mason, I'm having a challenge pronouncing your last name. AAA Parking, Mason. Mirjardian. Mason, are you? I see you in the back. Don't take your time. Come on. No, Mason, right there. At the right back there. Go right ahead, sir.
Good morning. My name is Mason Mirjardian. I'm Executive Vice President with AAA Parking. Is it clear?
No, you go on.
Okay. I have been in this industry for the last 23 years, and my job have been convincing a lot of hotels to have valet parking versus self-parking, and we created a lot of jobs nationwide and in the state of California as well. With the minimum wage increasing to almost 65%.
Mason.
Yes, sir.
You signed up to speak on item 2. Item 2 does not pertain to the minimum wage. So you would have to speak to the item, or if you want, we can take your card and place it with the other cards of the people that want to speak on item 4.
That would be great. Yes.
Okay, so we will do that.
I appreciate that. Sorry.
All right, Mason. So let's prepare to vote on item 2. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Okay, now we're going to move, Mr. Clerk, to item 4. And the way that we will proceed with this item is that I will call on the makers of the motion to give opening statement, and then we will go to a hearing with 20 minutes on each side, 1 minute per speaker. So with that said, yes, Mr. Clerk.
Pardon me, sir. Before doing so, I'd just like to reiterate again that the Economic Development Committee report and ordinance for this matter has been circulated and is now before council for consideration.
Okay, to begin this, I will recognize Mr. Price, the chair of the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. We had a great discussion in the Economic Development Committee yesterday on this issue. We heard from over 40 individuals supporting and opposing this ordinance. We heard from hotel owners and business groups who said they were concerned about the economic impact that this policy would have on their businesses. We heard from elected officials from Long Beach and Santa Monica who said that before their city passed similar measures to this, the same fears were expressed. Yet business owners said that their doors would close and tourism would decline. And in fact, neither of those things have happened in those communities. We've also heard from 3 economists, all who studied the impact of this wage increase. And there was no consensus among them. What they did agree on was that the hotel occupancy and room rates at the LAX entry corridor were not affected by a living wage or their employment changes, and it looks very similar to the rest of the county. Yes, we might see some job growth slowed or impacted, but the lives of thousands of workers will be improved. They'll be making a living wage that will permit them to provide for their families. They won't have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, leaving the important things like helping their children with homework or going to the PTA, or even the simplest luxury of things of having a dinner together as a family. We all want to see job growth in our city. We don't want to create additional underemployment. Why not focus on creating living wage jobs that an individual only needs to work 1 job to provide for his or her family? That's what I want for the city. It's what's right, and it's what's fair. That's why I support this ordinance. I have to dispute the idea that the policy was not carefully studied or thought out. We've had 6 reports on the study from 4 different economists over the course of several months, nearly 8 months. There have been meetings with the industry, hotel industry, and business community to address concerns and to receive feedback. One of the main arguments we've heard from opponents is, why target one industry? Well, the hotel industry has been a target for some time. Not only because the city set a precedent by implementing a living wage ordinance at LAX airports, the industry has also been targeted for hundreds of millions of dollars in financial assistance in the form of tax breaks. As the LA Times reported back in April, just 4 hotel development projects in the downtown area received almost $500 million in tax breaks over the lifetime of the agreement. So beyond what the city does in terms of investing in public infrastructure, transportation, and tourism, we're also actively creating incentives to single out the hotel industry in a good way, and I support that. We also plan to create incentives for hotel developers for new construction and for adaptive reuse, for renovation. I totally support that as well. But we also, I think, need to pass a living wage ordinance that will impact the lives, the quality of lives for thousands and thousands of citizens in our city, and set a pace for what other communities should be doing as we close the income disparity gap that plagues not only Los Angeles, but hundreds of communities around this city and around this world. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, if you do have an amendment that you'd like to submit on this item, I've heard of 2. You'd want to submit those amendments now. With that, Mr. Clerk? And Abak is prepared. But if you do have an amendment, submit it now. Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to Mr. Price for his stewardship of this legislation and my other co-sponsor, Ms. Martinez. I want, though, to thank those who are here today. Thank you to anyone who has cleaned a bathroom or made a bed or carried someone's luggage or fixed an air conditioner or checked in a guest at a hotel and helped put the best face on Los Angeles to those who are visiting here. Thank you.
In the interest of time, please, no applause.
And I want to thank those who stand with those workers today and have helped push this legislation from the grassroots up through the legislative process. You've moved justice forward in Los Angeles, and you've actually helped spark our next conversation about a citywide minimum wage, so thank you for that. Colleagues, this is the right thing to do. This is part of a long and proud tradition in Los Angeles of taking progressive measures to boost our economy by bringing people up from poverty. The City of Los Angeles created the first living wage ordinance for its contractors back in the 1990s. We created a living wage ordinance, a higher one for those who do business at LAX. We created a living wage for the hotels along Century Boulevard, and now we move forward and we do this, God willing, today. Anticipating some of what you will hear, colleagues, in the public hearing, you will hear that if we do this, the sky will fall, and you will hear that doing this is unfair. You will hear, to contradict the sky will fall promises, from Santa Monica Mayor Pam O'Connor, where they have effectively put a living wage policy in effect for all of their hotels. Yesterday, the committee heard from Suja Lowenthal from Long Beach, where voters approved a citywide hotel minimum wage or living wage. She said yesterday, "We were warned that hotels would be forced to pass costs on to guests and that would hurt tourism. We also heard that hotels would be forced to close their doors and leave our city." She further said, "Despite all the fears, I'm here to tell you that our hotels and tourist attractions have continued to thrive and people are still visiting Long Beach. Additionally, our living wage has brought thousands of dollars back into the local economy." Our history has also shown us, through all our living wages, that all the naysaying, all the sky will falling predictions did not come true. Did not come true. Raises were waged, and the sky did not fall. We're also going to hear that it is unfair to target the hotel industry. I'd submit, first of all, that a greater unfairness is that there are people who work full-time for wages that do not bring them above the poverty line. That is an unfairness and an injustice that dwarfs all others. But when we talk, I've heard from so many here in this building, in this crowd, who've said it's unfair to target the hotel industry. It's unfair to target a single industry. Mr. Price talked about all the ways in which we target the hotel industry for incentives, the way we target them for subsidies, the way we target them to keep part of their transit occupancy tax. We also have no problem targeting auto dealerships when we created incentives to bring that industry here into Los Angeles. We presumably have no problem, and I'm glad for it because it's a measure I've pushed along with Mr. Blumenfield, to create an incentive for internet-based businesses. We have had no problem creating special statewide legislation just to approve a downtown football arena. We target all the time. We incentivize all the time. And I dare say, I think it was a unanimous vote around this horseshoe, and I think many of the people who will come up and object to targeting were very strong and vigorous supporters of targeted incentives to help the film industry. If we can do targeted incentives to help businesses, we can do targeted incentives and legislation to help those who are working and living in poverty. It's time to lift the floor in Los Angeles. It's time to bring economic justice to Los Angeles. It's time to raise LA. Si se puede.
Please, 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 please. Please. Please, Ms. Martinez. And after Ms. Martinez, we are going to go into the public debate. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise today to ask you to support the passage of the hotel living wage ordinance. The Economic Development Committee over the past 7 months has reviewed 4 different group analyses of this proposed legislation, and we've had countless meetings with the affected stakeholders. We reviewed the pros and cons of this legislation and even made some changes to the motion yesterday that would change the minimum threshold for the ordinance hotels to 150 rooms or more. By doing so, we ensure that we will not cause dramatic financial impact on small family-owned operating businesses here in Los Angeles. There have been many arguments. One of them primarily is that it would stop development of hotels in Los Angeles, or that we would lose businesses to neighboring communities. Well, I'm not saying that there won't be any impacts to Los Angeles. I believe that the positives far outweigh the negatives. Hotels like the Grand Wilshire will continue to open, and as new attractions like the Universal Studios World of Harry Potter will open next year, hotels will be built to meet the demand of tourism. And economically, the large hotels here in Los Angeles continue to make profit and thrive due to the work of the LA residents. The hotels in the LAX corridor were subject to a current living wage ordinance, and they've been able to outpace the LA County on revenue per available room and occupancy. In fact, they've been able to outpace the rest of the county on occupancy alone, so businesses there continue to thrive. This ordinance is important because not all of our districts, such as mine in the San Fernando Valley, have an LA Live or have a beach or a major tourist attraction. But we can still create economic benefits of tourism in our communities and in our districts because our residents are the housekeepers, the bellmen, the valets of these hotels. By creating a living wage for our residents here in Los Angeles, we will also ensure that many of the monies continue to incentivize economic development in our districts. The majority of the workers in this industry are women. People who work, 43% of this working force lives under the poverty line level. It is not okay for anyone working in this industry to clock out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and have to rush to a second job. It is not okay for mothers in the city who work in this industry to not be home before bedtime to put their kids to sleep. It is not okay for families to have to be able to raise a family in Los Angeles working for this thriving industry to not see their children before they go to bed. It is not acceptable. So I stand with my colleagues, Mr. Price and Mr. Bonin, and ensuring that the families who work in this industry earn a living wage and are able to provide for their families. Thank you.
Okay, please, if we could, I need you to trust me, and we've got to try to keep the applause down so that we can move through this item. So at this point, what I'm going to start off. Oh, the amendments? So I'll let you do your amendment, then we'll go to the public comment. So, Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I appreciate this. Yesterday in committee, our colleague Jose Huizar got the approval for an amendment to the ordinance to include rehabilitated or repurposed buildings and a report back, adaptively reused buildings, I should say, for a report back this summer. Understanding that process, that a nexus has to be drawn in order to make the case for exempting that, I would like to ask for a friendly amendment to that amendment to exempt hotels from the ordinance that are within city-registered historic landmarks and federally designated historic buildings, considering the tens of millions of dollars that of costs that are put into renovating and restoring these structures and the concern of absorbing those costs. I would like to propose that amendment to the adaptive reuse piece.
Mr. Huizar.
Yes, that will be accepted, and this report is due back from the amendment we made in our committee yesterday, July 15th, prior to the implementation of this ordinance, such that in the event the appropriate findings are made, we could take action, but we will wait to see what that report says and the report back, and yes, that's a friendly amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I think I have another amendment request from Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, colleagues, just tee this up in talking about the LA waterfront. This debate comes down to a simple question. How do we ensure that some of the hardest working service employees in the city can afford to live here without killing the goose that lays the golden egg? My biggest concern about this proposal is how it may impact new hotel development, specifically along the LA waterfront. You've heard me talk day in and day out here in this chamber about waterfront redevelopment. We are the only port in this country that has not succeeded in creating a destination on its waterfront because it's not an attraction. We are the only city where property values decrease the closer you get to the waterfront. But we're at a standing, and we're standing on a tipping point. The recent opening of the downtown harbor, the USS Iowa, and crafted at the Port of Los Angeles, has created new tourism destinations in San Pedro and along the Wilmington waterline as well. The recent Tall Ships Festival, Lobster Festival, the Red Bull Rally Cross drew thousands of people along the waterfront. And I'm working with the LA Harbor Commission to increase programming at the port. We have a limited number of hotel rooms available, and we want to attract new development. And I'm concerned about how this will affect new development. To quote from the Blue Sky report, any action that raises costs for an industry without providing simultaneous opportunities to increase revenues will lower profits. And as an industry becomes less profitable, incentives to invest in that industry are diminished. To the extent that wage costs increase for LA hotels, but hotel owners cannot raise prices or cut other costs to offset these wage increases, hotels will be less profitable. This reduction in profitability would put downward pressure on new development, reducing the likelihood that new hotels would be developed in the city. And that is, for me, in our push in redeveloping the LA waterfront is an issue. I care deeply about economic justice and ensuring those that work full-time can afford to live in LA. But it can't be at the expense of the larger strategy to increase economic development to promote tourism. For that, I'd like to move the report be amended to raise the number of rooms this ordinance would apply from 150 to 250. This will ensure fair wages for workers at the largest hotels, while eliminating the potential roadblock for new development, specifically in my district, along the Wilmington and the San Pedro waterfront. And
Mr. Laban seconds it. Okay, so those are our two amendments. Let's move forward. I'm going to call on the I'm going to call in the individuals that oppose this measure, and I'll start off with Bruce Balton and Chris Thornburg, followed by Gary Tobin. Please come forward. We have 20 minutes on each side, a minute each. Morning, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, council members. I am Bruce Balton with PKF Consulting, one of the two firms who was hired to do an economic analysis of the potential impact of the ordinance as proposed. And in our report, what we've said in the report is that basically many people will be helped by this, but there will be people hurt as well. And we would propose that you structure the ordinance in such a way as to carve out, if you can, tipped employees, primarily in the food and beverage areas, because we're in Long Beach and LAX both, where we're seeing this happen, as well as Seattle. hotels have cut jobs to make up for the economic consequence of this, and the jobs they've cut are primarily in the food and beverage areas where people actually are making very good livings, but primarily off of tips as opposed to base salaries. But when base salary is raised as much as it is here in the food and beverage area, and the tip jobs, those jobs get cut because they are discretionary to the hotels. So I would propose, if you could, structure the ordinance in such a way as to carve out those higher paying jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Thornburg, followed by Mr. Tobin, Gary Tobin.
All right. Thank you, council members, for giving me a couple seconds here to talk. As you know, we did a report as well, and I want to point out that while I am for all sorts of issues to help the overall economy flourish, including at some level of minimum wage, at the same time, I think there are important secondary consequences of this particular bill as it's being put into place. There's two major points I want to bring into account up to you today. First of all, if you're trying to help the lowest-skilled workers in our economy, I'd like to know why it is that you're exempting hotels with 150 rooms or less. After all, those are the workers who have the most difficult time. Your average worker for small hotels makes $9,000 less per year than in the large hotels. I don't understand that particular dissection of this particular rule. Second thing to keep in mind, of course, is the experience of the airport. It is absolutely the case that the airports, in terms of their room operations, have succeeded despite the higher minimum wage. But we have to remember hotels have many lines of businesses, and other lines of businesses have clearly been impacted. Indeed, while employment in the overall industry has gone up by 10% and around the airport's gone down by 10%, and what that means is while your average worker there is making about $1,500 more than they would have, on the other side of it, 400 jobs have not been allowed to be created.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tobin, followed by a Mark Bissaria, and I think a James Crank. Yes, Garrett. Mr. Tobin.
President Weston and members of the council, you have surely read already the economic reports that were delivered late Monday night. And there's a letter from me that has excerpts related to the ordinance at LAX and also the ordinance in Long Beach. You will see that both are clearly state that yes, wages went up, and yes, jobs went down. You will also clearly see that there were no new hotel announcements made in either of those areas since these ordinances went into effect. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Please come forward. State your name.
Hi, Mark Beccaria. Thank you, Council President Weston and fellow council members. One, there's a lot of talk about the subsidies that have been given. This ordinance would not affect those hotels that receive the subsidies, so we're already at a competitive disadvantage. Then and we haven't received one subsidy on who this ordinance will affect. That's huge to us. Number two, interest rates are at an all-time low. So you're talking about development. If it's not going down now, interest rates are going to start going up. And when they go up, there will not be, between this living wage and interest rates going up, it will kill future hotel investments. This really impacts tipped employees. We have 15 valets at our hotel. Our market doesn't allow us to charge for valet. It's free, complimentary. We will have to eliminate it. We cannot afford a 72% pay increase to them. We've even asked some of them before to take a supervisor position making $32,000. They've all turned down that position because they said that would be them taking a pay cut because they make more in tips. But those positions will be eliminated. We have servers making $80,000 a year. We will eliminate the server restaurant. Restaurants will be charging $50 for hamburgers, and nobody will be out there. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could get, wait, that wasn't. So now this is James.
Yes,
I'm kind of confused. I'm sorry. And after James, if I could get Julie Roby and Alex Marati.
Hello, Council. My name is James Crank, and I'm the asset manager of the Beverly Garland Hotel in North Hollywood. Employees are the most precious resource of the hotel. Without happy, successful, healthy employees, there's a very bad guest experience. We want to keep our jobs. We are adding jobs currently to our hotel as we go through a renovation. We are adding jobs this year and next year. However, when I pencil this out at this rate, at this speed of this rate, there is no way that the hotel's profitability can be sustained. It will actually go into a negative spiral deficit that cannot be sustained, and I will have to lay off many or all of those jobs. The San Fernando Valley is not Santa Monica. Santa Monica has a higher rate. It has a higher occupancy rate. The city is spread out. There are different economic zones. The San Fernando Valley hotels cannot sustain a rate of this magnitude. There is the mayor's rate on the table that is much more sustainable. We're examining that. We think that can work. Let's raise everybody and keep all jobs.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, it's Ms. Roby.
Yes, good morning. My name is Julie Roby. I'm the general manager of the Holiday Inn in the Harbor area. I'm not Chicken Little, and I know the sky is not going to fall, but I have to lay off 10 employees. Hopefully one of you are hiring, and we're not have to do that. Think about it, please, because a gradual rate increase would be better for the employees. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Morning. My name's Alex Marati. I'm managing partner of Mayfair Lofts LLC, which owns the Mayfair Hotel. We recently purchased the Mayfair Hotel with the hopes of converting it into housing at first, but as we saw the hotel industry progressing, we chose to maintain it as a hotel. However, we have to spend over $15 million in renovations. That's without a single penny of subsidy from the city of Los Angeles. If this ordinance is passed, we will be forced to consider converting back into residential and potentially laying off over 40 some odd current employees there. We would like to maintain this as a hotel, but to be able to afford it with the significant amount of investment that we will have to put into the hotel, with this living wage passing, it would be very difficult.
Thank you, sir. So if I can get Jim Dunn, Michael, and Michael, I cannot pronounce your last name, so come on forward since you're there. And I think it's Nicole Shahinian. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. I haven't been here for quite some time. I recognize a lot of the colleagues in here. I'm the owner of the Airtel Plaza Hotel on the Van Nuys Airport in Van Nuys. I have a 40-year lease with the City of Los Angeles, and I'm proud to say that we've completed 30 years in business. My message is quite simple, and that is I hope to make 40 years, and I'm not sure what the outcome is. I can't predict whether the sky is going to fall, but I can tell you that there will be a shift in employment structure. I don't know what that is, but there is a secondary and tertiary effect. And finally, if I reduce our profits, the City of Los Angeles, who's my landlord, will have reduced the value of their property when I've completed my lease. So think about the economics and think about the people. Thanks.
Thank you for coming out, Mike. Followed by Nicole, followed by John Howland. Yes, sir.
Right. Mike Charchinsky, Chairman of the Hotel Association, Managing Director of the Westin Bonaventure. Some of the facts yesterday are in fact incorrect. In Long Beach, we operate 2 hotels. Because of the living wage, they had to reduce 75 jobs per hotel. That's 18% of the employees there, primarily food and beverage employees. In Santa Monica, they do have a living wage, and it's doing well, but they include tips as part of the wages. You need to go back and look at this. In each of your districts, there will be layoffs and terminations of over 2,000 people. You'll be able to empty this room 10 times. District 15, 200 jobs. 13, 100. 4, 200. 5, 100. 11, 130. 14, 100. 2, 150, and so on. Please give us more time. Let us discuss this. We want a fair wage for everybody, and we think the $13.25 is the right number.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. please come forward and identify yourself. And after Mr. Howland, if I could have Stuart Waldman, followed by Mason. Yes.
Good morning, Nicole Shahanian with the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. The Hollywood Chamber absolutely agrees that poverty in LA has to be addressed. We just disagree that this is the best way to do it. LA's tourism and hospitality industry is something that the city greatly depends on. It's the Chamber's belief that approval of an industry-specific minimum wage aimed at LA's hospitality industry remains bad policy for the city. In light of the mayor's recent and simultaneous proposal for a citywide increase in minimum wage, the Chamber asks that you oppose any further calls for an increase and let this happen at the citywide level. We think that this is the best for the entire city and can raise the economics for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Howland.
Good morning. John Howland with the Central City Association. The majority of economists commissioned by this council have found the hotel living wage mandate will cost jobs and investment in Los Angeles, and we urge you to actually listen to their report, the report that you commissioned that was given yesterday, and the full council should hear this. The impact on the city's economic engine downtown Los Angeles will be even more severe. This ordinance threatens our economic growth in several ways. Hotels will cut back on staff, and those staff who lose their jobs, their sky will fall. New investment in hotels will be cut substantially. We know of at least 3 projects in downtown that ended. Those are jobs in construction and jobs in the hotels that will never occur. And the convention business will suffer because the city will not have the critical masses of hotels needed. This job loss is not theoretic. These are real jobs that are badly needed in a city that is lagging the national economic recovery. We believe the best way to help people climb out of poverty is to create robust economic environments to create jobs. Thank you. Please vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Waldman, followed by Mason.
Stuart Waldman, President of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. I don't understand why we're in this situation where the economists are not sitting at this table presenting to you. You commissioned studies, the city paid for it, and yesterday 4 council members heard the reports. The economists are all here, they're all willing to talk to you, and I think in a fair and open process, they should get more than 1 minute to be able to answer your questions and be able to present. And I know they're willing to be here to do this. Their reports came out 36 hours ago, less than 36 hours ago in some cases. No one has had time to actually look at these reports, dissect them, but let's give the appearance that you actually want to hear what the reports say. This is bad process. I'm not even going to talk about that the number is bad and it's going to hurt jobs and hurt the valley, which has no nexus to some of the items you've said. No one comes to the San Fernando Valley to see Griffith Park as a tourist, for example. But really, let's let the economists come and sit here and talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Mason.
Good morning, Council, and my apology about writing the wrong item number.
It's fine. Go ahead.
My name is Mason Majordian. I'm Executive Vice President with AAA Parking and have been with AAA for the last 23 years. My company and I have been recognized numerous times for creating many jobs. As a matter of fact, we created over 1,000 jobs on different hotels that they never had valet parking, and we introduced valet parking to basically enhance their services and create jobs. Now, again, with this minimum wage increase, especially for a department like us, that 90 or 85% of our total cost is wages, it actually puts us completely out of business, or at the minimum, it's going to be eliminated department of valet parking in many hotels. I kindly request to be considered at the minimum an amendment to this proposal to eliminate subcontractors and especially valet parking, because I have no doubt a lot of valet parking department will be completely closed if this pursues. So you're going to have way many less jobs.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to go with those that are supportive We will start off with the Mayor of Santa Monica, Pam O'Connor, followed by School Board Member Steve Zimmer, followed by Maria Elena Durazo.
Hi, good morning. I'm Pam O'Connor. I'm the mayor of the city of Santa Monica. I felt it was important for me to be here today to tell you about our experience in Santa Monica, where hotels are already paying a living wage. In fact, for the past few years, it's been standard practice to require a living wage in our development agreements, including a provision that workers make $15.37 an hour. This has included hotels of all sizes, providing all levels of service, including limited service hotels. Yes, we were warned that the higher wages would undermine development in the city and slow down our growth, but that has not been the case. Instead, development is robust. Tourism and our local businesses are as successful today as they ever have been. I believe we can, and we should, take a regional approach to regional problems. A living wage in the hotel industry will help alleviate poverty. It'll establish uniformity in the market and leave no one city at a competitive disadvantage. So please join us. Let's join together in lifting the quality of living for so many people throughout the region by implementing a living wage.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ho, shh.
Good morning.
Mr. Zimmer.
Good morning. I'm Steve Zimmer. I'm Vice President of the LA School Board. I thank you for hearing us this morning. I want to bring to you that in June, our board unanimously endorsed this measure. Why did we do this? It's because this measure, this minimum wage issue, is a public education issue. We have conservatively over 15,000 of our parents who work in the LA hotel industry. We want them to have the chance to be involved in their kids' educations, which means not working two jobs, which means not having to worry about whether they can pay the rent, pay the bills, and being involved at schools. And then we did something else. We said that we would make sure that every worker in LAUSD had a minimum wage of $15 an hour. Why did we do this? Simply because it was immoral for our workers who served food to our kids then to go hungry with their families at night. I want to argue to you that those workers who make the beds in our hotels should be able to tuck their kids in at night. I urge your unanimous support.
Thank you. So if I could get Maria Elena, James Elmendorf, and Tom Walsh.
Good morning, sisters and brothers. And on behalf of the labor movement, we are here side by side with the hotel housekeepers and dishwashers and everyone else who is a vital part of a highly successful, highly prosperous, growing industry, and that is tourism. Hotel workers are here because they want family-supporting wages. Hotel workers are here because they know they deserve better. Yesterday, a comment was made by an expert in response to a question about why are there so many people earning low wages in Los Angeles. The response was quite disturbing. The response was, well, we're just 100 miles from the border. Sisters and brothers, the men and women who work in this industry create enormous profits for the industry, and it's time that we invest in them and not just in the brick and mortar of the buildings that they work in. They deserve better. It can be, the hotels can afford it. And I ask you, vote today. Let's move on. And you have a responsibility and a leadership to do it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Tom.
Yes. Good morning, council members. Tom Walsh, president of Unite Here, Local 11. And I just wanted to say to those of you who are planning on supporting Raise LA, on behalf of our 20,000 members, but most importantly on behalf of the thousands and thousands of hotel workers who are going to benefit from your action, thank you. Just as a reminder, those industry doomsdayers and everything that they're telling you today are the exact same things that they said in years past when this body attempted to bring the poorest of the poor out of poverty. And each time we proved those predictions false. So I again congratulate you. I thank you on behalf of all hotel workers. It is the right thing to do. It is the moral thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. You want us to finish our discussion, so let's keep the applause at a minimum. James, followed by Veronica Perez, Eleanor Ramos, and Jose, I think it's Ramirez. Go right ahead, Mr. Elmendorf.
Good morning, council members. James Elmendorf, Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I want to ask all of you for your support for Raise LA and for a minimum wage for hotel workers. You've heard a lot about how hotels can't afford this wage. I think everybody here knows that hotels can afford this wage. They've had record revenues for 4 straight years, and last month hotels had record occupancy, the best in our city's history, and record room rates, the best in our city's history. Hotels are doing great, but for too long hotel workers have been left behind, and this is an opportunity to bring hotel workers forward, to lift them out of poverty, and to make sure we have good middle-class jobs for too many workers in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Ms. Perez, I see you. If we could kind of clear the aisle so that the speakers could come down. And after Ms. Perez, I have Eleanor Ramos and Jose Ramirez. Ms. Perez.
Good morning. I'm Veronica Perez, representing the Small Hotel Coalition for Jobs. Our coalition are hotels in the 100-room range, independent, family-owned businesses, hardworking Angelenos who have invested their life savings in these hotels. We would like to thank the committee, and in particular Councilwoman Nuri Martinez, to working with the small business community to craft a more balanced policy. Workers at larger hotels will benefit, and workers at the smaller hotels who are most at risk of being laid off will be protected. The increase in room threshold to 150 helps to mitigate the impact of potential job losses. With the increased room threshold, we are supportive of this policy. Small businesses are the backbone of the Los Angeles economy, and your support today will tell our local entrepreneurs that you are committed to their success. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could now, Eleanor Ramos, is that you? Jose Ramirez, and I think it's Beatriz Hernandez. Please come forward.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Ramos. I'm one of the leaders at LAX, and I've been employed there for 18 years. I personally have benefited from the living wage that Mike Bonin had helped us make into a reality. And I have seen the airport expand and added thousands of new jobs. So this living wage has helped us enormously. Mike has been a true champion for the workers at LAX, and he set a standards for us that's like enormous, that other states should follow. I really believe that workers better themselves by having a living standards. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Jose?
Good morning. My name is Jose Moreira Ramirez. I am a banquet houseman earning $18.50 an hour at the JW Marriott at LA Live. I am not here for myself, but for the thousands of workers who have struggled like I have. I started working when I was 14 years old. I have a lot of low-paying jobs, delivering auto parts for $8 an hour, piling sandwiches at Subway for the same. A year and a half ago, my mom passed away from a brain hemorrhage. The glue that kept my family together was gone. My dad earning the minimum wage, much of the responsibility fell on myself. Funeral expenses, bills, caring for my 16-year-old brother. Thankfully, a few years before my mom passed away, I got the job that I have now. Due to that, my family did not crumble. I was able to keep my brother in a private school. He is now a freshman at St. John's University. That is the difference between $10 an hour and a living wage. I am not rich, but I can take care of myself and help my family. For that, I am proud.
Thank you. Thank you. So if I could get Beatrice Hernandez, Minnie Sanders, and Roxana Rivas. Yes.
Hello, my name is Beatriz Hernandez, LAI City. I am here to thank you. My sister-in-law is a housekeeper in JW Marriott. She told me about openings there. I applied and I was hired. Housekeeping is a very hard job, the hardest I had ever had, but it's the best I could find in LA. There is a lot of job openings. Mine is good because when LLI was built, the LLI City Council said it should be. That's why I am here to thank you. You took action and made the hotel job at LLI a good one. Now I have the opportunity to do for others what you did for me. Thank you very much for your consideration. And I want to ask those people that oppose how much they are making per hour. That's my question.
Okay. Minnie Sanders, Roxana Rivas, James Russell. Good morning.
Good morning to the mayor and the city council. My name is Minnie Sanders. I've been working in the hospitality industry for 13 years as a concierge and also as a shop steward for Local 11 for 9. I want to thank you for taking interest in our working conditions, listening, and caring. And I also want to thank the mayor and the city council for the movement they've been making for the workers of LA. And it makes me proud to live in Leimert Park. Thank you.
Hola, me llamo Roxana Rivas. He estado trabajando en la industria hotelera por 13 años. Ahora trabajo como recamarera en Sheraton Universal Hotel.
And I work at the Sheraton Hotel.
Oh.
We have a translator who's going to have to provide the translator.
Well, where's our translator? Okay. Wait 1 minute. All righty.
Pero no quiero hablar sobre mí porque yo tengo un trabajo con Unión.
Good morning. My name is Rosana Rivas. I have been working in the hotel industry for 13 years. Now I work as a housekeeper at the Sheraton Universal Hotel. But I'm not here to speak about me. I want to talk about my cousin Maria.
Ella no pudo estar aquí ahora porque hoy mismo está trabajando en el Hilton Garden. Trabaja para una gran compañía hotelera y solo gana $9 por hora.
My cousin Maria was not able to be here today because she's currently working at the Hilton Garden Inn. She works in a great hotel chain, but she's only earning $9 per hour.
Ella trabaja un horario completo, no tiene beneficios, no tiene días de enfermedad, ella no tiene nada.
She works a full-time job, but has no benefits, has no sick days, and she really has no benefits at all.
Su marido también gana el mínimo. Él tiene 2 trabajos, instala suelos de madera, no tienen 2 niños y viven en un tráiler.
Her husband also works earning minimum wage. He has 2 jobs installing hardwood floors. They have 2 little baby girls and they live in a trailer home.
María y su familia merecen vivir mejor. Hoy tenemos la oportunidad de cambiar la vida de María y de cientos de trabajadores. Gracias.
Maria and her family deserve a better life, quality of life. Today we have the opportunity to change Maria's life and also the lives of hundreds of workers. Thank you very much.
Okay. If we could have James Russell, Richard Weintraub, and I think it's Teresa Eilers. Yes, James.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is James Russell. I worked in hotel and hospitalities for about 3 years now. I currently work as a reservations agent at the brand new Line Hotel in Koreatown. I'm here to be an actor. That's my #1 passion. But the bottom line is that the hotels have been a great career for me. They help me keep my bills paid. And someday I really do want to own my own hotel. Right now I make $13 an hour, and unfortunately in the city of Los Angeles, that's not a living wage. My rent alone is $1,099 a month. That's more than one full paycheck. I mean, just think about that for 1 second, right? And then on top of that, I've got to pay my car payments, I've got to pay my insurance, I've got to buy groceries, gas, I've got to get ahead of my credit cards. I have $30,000 in student debt that I need to start paying off. Just to make ends meet, I have to work 2 other jobs. One job is as a pet sitter, the other job is a brand ambassador. Now, hands down, it's better for everyone if I can make enough at just one job. That way I don't have to show up tired. I don't have to show up exhausted because I've been working too long, and I can give a better service. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard Weintraub, followed by Teresa. Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Richard Weintraub. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and I love this city. I'm here today on behalf of the Sportsman's Lodge in Studio City. At the Sportsman's Lodge, we currently pay our employees more than $15 an hour because we feel it's the right thing to do. And at $15 an hour, it doesn't even let you have enough money to rent an apartment today. On Curbed LA, it says it's $2,700 a month to get a 2-bedroom apartment. $15 an hour gets you $24,000 a year before taxes. I really like my employees. They're long-term. I get to know them. I know their families. I don't want them to struggle. I don't want them to have to come to work sick because they can't afford lost wages. Last week, I met an employee at another hotel who had 102-degree fever and a stomach flu, who had to go to work because she was afraid she would get fired and she couldn't afford to get kicked out of her apartment with her 2 children. I could go on and on, but thank you very much.
Thank you. So can we have Teresa? Please, 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 please. So if I could have Teresa, Walker Foley, and Ruth Dawson. Yes.
Hi, my name is Teresa Eilers. I work with foster care youth as a workforce developer for the Right Way Foundation, which is located in Leimert Park. And we have seen again and again when emancipated foster care youth earn less than a living wage, these youth turn to illegal street hustling. So a fun fact, 75% of the population in California that's incarcerated has been in the foster care system at some point in their life. 80% of prostitutes in Los Angeles County have been in the foster care system at some point in their life. So we can see that there's a direct correlation between not being able to earn a living wage and then having to resort to other means to raise money, and then which has larger consequences in society. So what we're asking is that people at the top can give a little bit more to the people at the bottom to be able to strengthen the lives of individuals as well as a society at large. And we want to start by doing this in the hospitality sector and then eventually lead into all other sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is it Mr. Foley? Ruth Dawson, followed by Richard Zaldivar. Yes, sir.
Hi there, my name is Walker, and I'm an organizer with Food and Water Watch here in SoCal. And I'd like to say the sky really is falling because we are now living in the era of climate change. And the message I want to leave with you today is that economic justice is environmental justice. People earning less are more likely to live near source polluters, urban oil wells, refineries, freeways, and they're also more likely to have to commute further because they can't afford to live in the neighborhoods where their jobs are located. And on average, people earning less than $25,000 a year are making up about 40% of commutes in Los Angeles. The average commuter contributes 3,600 pounds to CO2 emissions a year. And the basic argument for me is that we're not going to give people the right to earn a decent wage. We're going to make them live further and often near source polluters. And we're going to unintentionally force them to be contributing to greater climate change emissions. It's time for people to earn a dignified wage.
Thank you. Okay, so can I get Ms. Dawson, followed by Richard, followed by, this one's kind of tough for me. I think it's Pastor Q from the Row Church, if you could make your way down. Ms. Dawson.
Good morning, council members. My name is Ruth Dawson, and I'm an attorney with the ACLU of Southern California, where my work focuses on reproductive justice and gender equity. The ACLU strongly supports the Raise LA campaign because basic economic rights are inextricably linked to civil rights and civil liberties, and because paid sick days and a living wage are reproductive justice issues. It is not lost on us, nor on our partners in the Raise LA Coalition, including California Latinas for Reproductive Justice, Hollywood Now, and the East LA Women's Center, that a majority of the workforce in LA's hotels are women, and many of them are parents. Reproductive justice means being able to work and take care of your family. It means not having to choose between tending to the needs of a sick child and keeping the job that is crucial to your family's well-being. But for too many hotel workers, this has not been the case. Instead, if they need to take time off to care for themselves or their families, their hours are docked, they're written up, and they have less money to spend to put food on the table. They even fear losing their jobs.
Thank you.
The ACLU of Southern California urges you to vote yes.
Thank you. So, Richard, before I call you, we're over our time, but since we had to use a translator, I think that we'll do a few more minutes based on the need for us to have to translate. So, Richard, it's on you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, members of the Council. My name is Richard Zaldivar. I'm the founder and the executive director of the Wall Las Memorias Project. The Wall Las Memorias serves low-income and hard-to-reach people in Los Angeles through HIV/AIDS, education, substance abuse prevention, and LGBT community building. For nearly 20 years, we've challenged stigma and bigotry and worked to create a safer place for dialogue towards real change in Los Angeles and the greater area. The LGBT community is represented significantly in the ranks of the city hotel workers, and they are particularly vulnerable to harassment, discrimination, and unfair pay. I'm strongly in favor of this proposal because it is critical to the well-being of the LGBT workforce. But it also strikes at the very heart of our organization, the Wall Las Memorias. I know this council, as in the past, has governed with similar values. I have seen you show incredible leadership and take bold and visionary action to do the right thing at the right time. This is one of those times that really counts and requires strong, decisive action. I ask you to support this, and I appreciate you taking action. Thank you.
Okay, now after Pastor, I'm going to do two more cards, and we will file the remaining cards into the record. So after the Pastor, I want Fanny Ortiz, and I believe it's Lindsay Hovath. Okay, yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Pastor Q. Jean-Marie from the church, Skid Row, called the Church Without Walls. I have to look in the faces of these individuals who are affected by poverty wages on a daily basis. With their current jobs, they cannot afford to live in the city of Los Angeles. We serve the densest population of homeless individuals in this country, additionally 7,000 who reside in subsidized apartment and welfare hotels. We work with suffer from mental illness and substance abuse, but more than that, more than you think, they are victims of economic downturn, misfortune that can happen almost overnight when people are living just above the poverty wage or the poverty line. We can reduce poverty by raising the minimum wage in the lowest low-wage industry in California. And we can also make sure that as we develop new hotels to meet the needs of our growing tourism, hotels would offer good jobs to people who live and work in our city.
Thank you.
Please support the proposal, and God bless you.
Thank you. So, Fanny, are you here? And do I have Lindsay? Please come up. Lindsay, you'll be the last speaker. Miss Ortiz.
Good afternoon. I'm Fanny Ortiz, and I represent Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council. Boyle Heights strongly endorses this proposal, and we urge you to move ahead with the plan today. The increase will have a tremendous impact on the community of Boyle Heights. We represent 70,000 residents in the city of LA, and our council District 14 is home to the second highest number of hotel workers in the city. These workers are mostly Latino and immigrant. They work hard, but they are barely getting by and are at risk of falling through the growing gap between what things cost and what people can afford. Boyle Heights is joined by 16 neighborhood councils and districts across the city who endorse Raise LA. Together, we represent 770,000 residents in the city of Los Angeles. Increasing the minimum wage for hotel workers will not only help lift families in our communities out of poverty, but it will bring our fair share of LA's profitable tourism industry back to our neighborhoods and local businesses. This race can come soon enough for us, so we thank you for your leadership, and we look forward for your vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Hovath, we're almost there. Yes.
Thank you, and thank you to the entire council. My name is Lindsay Horvath. I'm the global coordinator with the 1 Billion Rising campaign. We're a global movement to end violence against women and girls, and we support today's proposal because the overwhelming number of lowest paid workers in this city, LA's housekeepers, are women who are also the overwhelming number of domestic violence victims and face potential sexual harassment and assault. Hardly the kind of environment they need to end financial abuse and create a secure plan to escape abusive homes. Today's proposal will not only save women's lives, but also benefit the service industry as a whole. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence reports the annual cost of lost productivity due to domestic violence at $727.8 million annually. For this and many other reasons, when I was in your shoes as a council member in the city of West Hollywood, I led my colleagues in creating a commitment to a living wage in hotel developments. It didn't slow our economy. It reflected our city's core values. And most importantly, it ensured dignity and respect for workers in West Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. You can be seated. That concludes the public comment on this item. I would now like to recognize Mr. Paul Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Around 1 million people in the city of Los Angeles currently work full-time and make less than poverty-level wages. They make around $18,000 a year. Everyone in this chamber knows you can't live on that in Los Angeles. This has a crippling effect on our economy. It has a ripple effect. It has a negative effect on our quality of life. It has a negative effect on our revenues. And we know that Los Angeles can do better, and it will do better. And we have to look at addressing minimum wages. And other large cities have done this in California, and they've been successful, and I think so can we. Now, I have my own bias. I was born into an HERE Local 11 family. Although if you go back far enough, it was actually Local 17 back then, and that's going way far back. My earliest memory of my father was walking a picket line holding his hand as a toddler, and I went to college because of the good work of HERE Local 11 and had health care, and I probably wouldn't be here today otherwise. So I thank all of you. But at the same time, looking at this issue, I appreciate the fact that we've taken a nuanced approach to it. And we've looked at what level in terms of the number of rooms, and we've recognized it's not impossible that some people will get laid off as a result of this. And if we didn't do it intelligently. And I think we are approaching it intelligently because the smallest hotels are the most likely to struggle. I think we've drawn the line at an appropriate place where we make it very unlikely that we'll see a large number of layoffs and very likely that we will change lives by increasing what people are making to a living wage. So I strongly support this measure. I think it'll make a huge difference in the lives of tens of thousands. And colleagues, I ask you to join me in passing this unanimously.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. I'd like our city attorneys to sit at the center table, if you would be so kind. PBS right now is having a very elaborate documentary by Burns, the cinematographer, the director on the FDR and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, the Rough Riders, Eleanor Roosevelt, etc., etc., etc. It was 1933, I believe, that the first minimum wage came into the United States. In 1938, I did have my notes, so I may be off on that, for the Social Security. All this goes back to a period of time where our country was at our lowest point, okay? And I have friends on both sides of this aisle right here, and I'm going to make all my friends not happy, but I'm going to make some of my friends happy. Gil Lindsay said that about 30 years ago, and it was a very important statement that he made. It's difficult for me to look at someone who runs the Airtel Motel in the heart of the San Fernando Valley next to the economic engine that we want the Van Nuys Airport to be. It's difficult to me to look at some of the young people who are out here talking about their lives and their struggles as it all goes together. But I think what is important that we do take the positive step, Mr. Wesson, but at the same time, the city attorneys, I just want some opportunity. I'm not in the business. I'm in government. I'm in the business of helping people. That's my business. So I don't know how to run a business, but I know how to help people, and I'm trying to help people today and not hurt people. If there is a review or some opportunity, I know with our tax and permit section down there, if I don't like to pay my taxes and I want to review it, I could go appeal it to it. How do we handle something like this? If I'm a business person on Ventura Boulevard, on Vineland Avenue, or on Hollywood Boulevard, I want to appeal this for some reason because maybe I'm a little family that runs a business. I'm not a big corporation. Please, Ms. Flores.
Well, there are actually two answers to that question. First, the ordinance before you today does have a procedure to allow a hotel that would be facing significant layoffs if it were forced to pay the living wage to seek a review and potentially get a waiver. So there already is a built-in mechanism to try to prevent layoffs and hardships. The second answer is that in terms of an appeals board, wages are essential, and it's kind of a bright line. You need to know what you're going to make. You need to have that certainty. So an appeal process would be difficult for an employee or an employer to navigate if you don't have certainty about what your wages are going to be. So we think we've tried to address the hardship issue in a way that makes sense for both the employer and the employees.
Well, we have contract administration that monitors contracts like the living wage out at LAX or at the concessions in the park system, et cetera. Who monitors this? And I don't know if the CLA should be here. Who monitors this for the city? We passed this today. Who monitors it?
Good afternoon, almost good afternoon, actually, council members. David Michelson with the City Attorney's Office. The Bureau of Contract Administration out of the Public Works Department has historically handled the administration of the city's living wage ordinance with respect to contractors. The mechanism here with respect to the hotel minimum wage citywide, I believe, is also destined for.
So are they here
Bureau of Contract
today? Is contract administration here today? I know I met with a contract administrator on a street problem today.
Right, and there's also a private right of action. There's also a private right of action built into the ordinance as well. So aggrieved.
Mr. President, I just wanted a friendly amendment that contract administration is at the table, that there is some recourse for business, that there's an office in City Hall that they could go to so that they feel that if they do need to appeal, if this is approved.
Right. If I might also add very briefly, this is a minimum wage. It's designed to be a floor, that employers are not to drop below this floor. Just as if with the federal minimum wage, the state minimum wage, there is no appeals board, for instance, with respect to their minimum wages, because you need to comply with the minimum wage. If you don't fit into an existing provision in the law, whether you're below a 150 room hotel or you're below a 300 room hotel, or you've received the 1-year waiver under the hardship provision, if you don't fit into one of these existing provisions, there's really nothing to appeal. It's a minimum wage. It must be paid.
I got it, but if you have a question, who are you going to talk to? You know?
Sure, absolutely, and that's
right.
that's a very good point, and I think Bureau of Contract Administration probably is
Bureau
that.
of Contract. So we all agree on that? Mr. Bond, Sharon, please. Sharon So, CLA Chief.
Good morning. Living wage right now is being handled by Bureau of Contract Administration. The enforcement and information is usually provided by Contract Administration. So it is our belief that that would be the appropriate place to go to. The Airport Hospitality Enhancement Zone is also enforced by Contract Administration as well.
Right.
Yes, and this ordinance does designate the Bureau of Contract Administration as the designated administrative agency, and you can find that in subsection C of section 186.01.
And will you be preparing in the budget positions for that if this is approved on that?
If this is approved, I would expect that the Bureau of Contract Administration would be putting forward a budget request package to precisely implement this particular ordinance.
Right. So, members, I just wanted to put that on the table. I think we got to look at this. We don't run the businesses of the city. We help the businesses, and we help the people. That's what our job is. I said, I'm not a businessman. I'm in the business of helping people. So, I know I may have disappointed some people today, but tomorrow I always want to work for the best. I believe in what Mr. Buscaino said. We're going to vote on these amendments later on. But I thank everybody for their efforts and their work. And I think we got to move forward. We look at Seattle, look at San Francisco, look at these coastal cities. I don't want to hurt people in business. I want to help people. And I want to help those who have opportunities to have jobs on this. The one thing I do want to say, though, what was brought to me by some business people, a lot of I know I got another 10 seconds to say that it's important to be fair, and that is the key. That I want to make sure the city attorney's office and our contract administration is on that queue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. I'll move, Sharon. I would like Sharon. I was trying to pick her brain because we went through this in 2006 and 7. An ordinance was put forward, and later there was a referendum and an effort to put it on the ballot. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the referendum got enough signatures to move forward, which then prompted a change in the proposed ordinance, whereupon the language was inserted as to a requirement of steps you take if you're going to expand this, and secondly, language that said we would not expand it unless there was a city revenue source that was equal to LAX. Is that close?
That's all correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The other issue is that language, if I understood it, was negotiated as a means of the city not having to put an election on to defeat that referendum.
Well, originally when the, I believe it was called the Century Corridor,
yeah.
Living wage, and the council had originally passed that in 2006. There was a referendum. It did qualify, and at that time the council had two choices. They could either place the measure on the ballot or they could repeal it. At that time, the council did repeal the original ordinance, and there was an effort to craft a different ordinance. It had to be substantially different than what was contained in the referendum. That ordinance was later passed by the City Council and is in effect today.
Okay, and that ordinance included the language about the steps to take and also how you would expand this in the future.
That is correct.
Okay, what did it save the city in that we did not have to go through an election for a referendum?
It was going to be placed on a general election. If I remember correctly, there was an incremental amount because we were already having an election in 2007. So if memory serves me, it may have been less than $1 million.
Okay. But the issue is that negotiation to change the ordinance was done by the people that had the referendum, the city, and in some regards, some city council members that got the new ordinance approved.
Maybe perhaps the city attorney can address that. We were not involved in those negotiations.
There was an attempt to reach a settlement with the proponents of the referendum. The city did believe a deal was reached and passed a second ordinance after repealing the first Century Corridor ordinance that contained all the terms in the settlement, although there was some dispute later about whether there was an actual agreement. Then you may recall that the city was sued. There was a lawsuit claiming the second ordinance, the AHAS ordinance that's now on our books, was an interference with the referendum right because it wasn't substantially different than the first ordinance. I was a litigator who handled that case. We successfully defeated the lawsuit. The court ruled the second ordinance was substantially different. And under our city charter, the city could not amend the AHES ordinance for 6 months after it passed. But now that 6 months has expired, and so the city is free to amend or repeal any portion or the entirety of the AHES ordinance. This current ordinance before you does repeal the AHES ordinance to try to make sure the two ordinances are consistent. And the reason our charter puts a limit on how soon after a referendum the city can repeal or alter an ordinance but doesn't ban it permanently is because of a longstanding legal principle called the ban against legislative entrenchment. And we can expand on that further if you'd like, but the general proposition is one legislative body through ordinance should not be able to bind permanently a second legislative body or a future legislative body because that would interfere with the will of the voters and is considered the antithesis of democracy.
Okay. I'll push my button again. Thank you.
No, you can continue. If you can just hold a little longer, Mr. Buscaino. Go right ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Parks.
Thank you very much. I want to just start off so there's no misinterpretation. The key for me is that I cannot support this ordinance as it is offered. And the thing I think that is important for me is that if we're going to look at the minimum wage as a city, it should be a city or regional minimum wage so we do not have industries or unions competing with each other as to one receive a better minimum wage than another. The other issue I think that's important is the business community has told us several times what will occur if you raise the minimum wage as we're proposing. A couple of things will occur, that they will either raise the price of their product, they will lay people off, they will not hire people, and that there's a potential that they may even take their business elsewhere. Those are things that have been threatened. I think as we move forward, the regional approach that's been offered or at least discussed in this city of dealing with minimum wage, particularly if it has a significant job creation element and an incremental increase, are the things I think we need to do for everyone, not just for a specific union or industry or business, but across the board, that this city should be competitive, particularly if the regional people step up and become a part of it. We then as a city are not losing business to Burbank, Glendale, and others, but that we often find that we're pointing to San Francisco, which is not one of our normal competitors. So from my standpoint, I think that we should be looking at a proposal that's citywide, incremental increase, and particularly have a job creation, because in a district such as mine, we only have 20,000 jobs that exist in our district. Our unemployment rate is generally 2.5 times more than the city. I can't afford for those who are actually working to be part of the unemployment process because we did something public policy-wise that did not look at the larger picture. So my concerns are, for me, it's clear that I can't support it. I think my efforts will be to look at the regional plan that's being discussed, and hopefully we can find an agreeable creation of jobs element so that we can all find that all employees in the city are benefited.
Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, to echo Mr. Labanja's comments, you know, we're not only in the business of making people happy, we're also in the business of compromise. And the importance of compromising in this ordinance before us. You know, I'm proud to represent a number of hotel workers in my district. I'm proud to represent a number of small businesses in my district. Oftentimes, my district, the businesses in my district, threaten to move across the street to Rancho Palos Verdes or to move to Carson or Redondo Beach. And I'm happy to hear Mr. Price's efforts in working with business and labor. Ultimately, business and labor, their ultimate goal is to create sustained jobs in the city of Los Angeles. I'm happy to hear the opt-out clause in this ordinance. And colleagues, I just got here. 2.5 years ago, I was patrolling the streets in the city of Los Angeles. My question, maybe to Sharon, it seems to me, or a comment, it seems to me that it'd make more sense to include the hotel incentive policy together with this living wage ordinance. Where are we at with Mr. Price's hotel incentive policy, and how soon can we see that come before us?
The hotel incentive report had actually already been heard in committee once or twice a few months ago, and we were asked to go back and review it for a more comprehensive policy, and so it is presently with our office, and we will be submitting a report shortly on that matter as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask Mr. Price, do you want to close? Oh, wait. Mr. O'Farrell.
Price. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I want to rise and just say a few things about this very important decision we're about to make. I want to start by thanking Mike Bonin, Corinne Price, Neri Martinez for their thoughtful approach on what I think everyone around this horseshoe believes is of utmost importance, and that is that we look out for those who sometimes struggle in society just to get by. This comes from quite a beautiful place, and it comes from the heart, and it comes from an informed place, and I respect deeply where this is all coming from. Having said that, I'm a little less than satisfied with the process, and by that I don't feel that the process has necessarily been shortened, with the exception of the fact that it was just heard in committee yesterday, and as the committee was unfolding, I was literally reading the Beacon report that had just been corrected, and so we've all had to kind of play catch up here. So I'm a little less than satisfied with that piece of it. I also just want to state that we're in a somewhat awkward position here in that beyond this building, everyone knows that we are not only considering this very important decision on hotel minimum wage, but also a larger decision moving forward on minimum wage across the city in general. It is of utmost importance for me as a decision maker to, along with that larger discussion that we're about to have, take a look at other drivers of poverty in the city of Los Angeles. It was mentioned earlier by someone about the high cost of housing. Affordable housing is a crisis in the city of Los Angeles, lack of affordable housing. We absolutely have to prioritize that as an issue that we must confront boldly, head on, and we have to develop a policy that helps lift people out of poverty. We've got to have that. We need to get in the business of true economic development, job creation, and upward mobility, and really lifting the middle class. It's important that we do all we can for those less fortunate, those who struggle. I just want to say that I'll personalize this a little bit. I mentioned earlier about an exception for hotels that are historically preserved. I worked at that hotel, the Roosevelt Hotel, in 1986. I was a waiter. I was a banquet server. I would leave that job in the day, and then in the evening I would go to the restaurant in Beverly Hills where I was a waiter. And in between that, I would audition for shows. There was a young man here who works in a hotel, and I can definitely relate to your story because you moved here to also become an actor. Well, I became a politician instead. And I do not regret that decision because this is the greatest job and the greatest career that I could have ever imagined, because we get the opportunity, we get the privilege of burdening ourselves with making very difficult, thoughtful decisions. And I do think that is a privilege. And I also want to thank everyone, every single person who came here today, away from your job to testify because you feel this is important. I also want to draw another distinction here. As we move forward on overall minimum wage discussion, let us not demonize the business community. Let us not demonize the chambers of commerce. Let us move forward in a balanced approach where everyone is respectfully heard, everyone has a say in the matter. Only then can we develop a policy that is truly fair and equitable. Our small businesses are suffering. Some of them get by just at the margins. At the same time, we know that our small businesses provide 3/4 of the employment in the city of Los Angeles. We absolutely have to do this very thoughtfully on a minimum wage. I also just want to highlight something that has struck with me since I heard it, and I want to commend my colleague, Nury Martinez. She has mentioned very passionately, very sensitively, and very accurately the plight of women. The plight of women in this industry, 2/3 of whom make up hotel employees. That has been more or less my deciding factor. I've got to tell you, I've been struggling with my intellect and with my heart on this one, and I have to say that my heart is going to win out on this one. But I want to just say that moving forward, let's enlarge this conversation across the whole city, amongst ourselves, with our mayor, with our employees, with our workers across the city, and with our business community, so that moving forward we do get living minimum wage right. That the process is thorough, that it is just, and that it is a complete process that will lead into a policy that will truly help lift people out of poverty, while we also explore the larger issues of affordable housing and economic development and middle-class jobs in the city of Los Angeles. That should be our focus, and I look forward to working with my colleagues to help get that right moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to speak to an amendment I proposed yesterday in committee. And first, I want to thank the proposers of this motion, Mr. Price, for moving it through committee yesterday. Yesterday, I proposed an amendment that will bring back a report in July of 2015 to examine the possibility of exempting possible boutique hotels that as we look at downtown and the revitalization and the need for more hotel rooms, and as we are looking to expand the capacity of the convention center to attract more tourism and more economic activity, I reminded everyone how important downtown is as an economic hub for the region. 500,000 people come to work here each and every day, and the tourism and the dollars that brings to help the economy throughout the city of LA and the region cannot be underestimated. And building more hotels is critical to that. So we wanted to strike a balance to perhaps looking at whether adaptively reused properties, which are the properties that will be available for more hotels, are not being shut down or making it cost prohibitive for them to be created. And not only that, but we get to preserve our history by looking at some of those buildings that we could preserve if possible. Mr. O'Farrell proposed today to look at historic structures perhaps, but it would be good to have that information to make that decision should we have to before the implementation of this ordinance. And lastly, I wanted to thank the workers and the work you do each and every day. It was a beautiful statement that Mr. Bonin said when we opened this up, because that's what this is really about. A nuestros compañeros, sabemos que en la ciudad de Los Ángeles nosotros somos la mayoría, la gente de bajos recursos, los trabajadores que limpian los edificios, los hoteles, que vamos cada día para darle a comer y darle una mejor vida para nuestros hijos e hijas en esta ciudad. Y hay que recordarnos que lo que ustedes están haciendo hoy va a abrir las puertas para que no solamente los trabajadores en los hoteles tengan una mejor vida, pero que aumentar el salario para todos los trabajadores en el futuro en esta ciudad de Los Ángeles. Y por eso ustedes les tenemos que dar las gracias, porque ustedes eran los primeros, los pioneros que trajeron esto a la ciudad. Muchísimas gracias. Adelante, tenemos mucho más trabajo que hacer, porque nosotros, los trabajadores, la gente de bajos recursos, somos la mayoría y hay que no olvidar eso. Podemos votar, podemos decir que queremos una mejor vida en este país, en esta ciudad. Muchísimas gracias.
Okay. Okay, please. Mr. Price to close.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I want to just thank everyone who came out, who has been following and weighing in on this issue, pro or con. Not just yesterday, not just the hours since the reports have been released, but who've been involved in this discussion over the past several months, as this issue has certainly been on the radar. I want to appreciate the discussion around the horseshoe today, and especially my colleagues who assisted in bringing this issue forward, Councilman Bonin and Councilwoman Martinez. Appreciate your leadership. As policymakers, we have to ultimately make a choice between what we're doing for our city, what we're doing for the hardworking men and women, and what's consistent with our beliefs. For me, the path is clear. I mentioned before, I represent the district where there's high unemployment, average wages of $25,000 a year, frequently families of 2, 3, 4, and citizens having to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. While our studies may disagree on the exact number of people who are going to benefit from the proposal, as has been said before, we know that thousands of individuals and families, hardworking men and especially women, will benefit from this measure. I certainly have a commitment to the hotel industry to continue working on incentives that are going to help develop new hotels, adaptive reuse programs, and others. But we also, I think we want to ensure that these hotels are developed in our city. But we also want to ensure that the individuals who are working in our hotels also receive fair wages that are consistent with good policies and efforts to improve the quality of life for individuals in our community. And I urge and I vote.
Okay, so where we are now, Mr. Clerk, stop me if I'm wrong. Our first vote would be on Mr. Buscaino's amendment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Mr. Buscaino, Mr. Parks, I see your finger raised.
I didn't quite grasp everything he said in the motion. I just wondered if we can get a thumbnail on what.
Okay, would you like to repeat, Mr. Buscaino?
Because it was verbal, it wasn't written.
Yes, it's just changing the number of hotel rooms from 150 to 250. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Correction, I think it's 200, right? Is it
200 is 250?
I know that, but what is the cap now?
150.
And is there a report that said it went to 200?
No, what he's doing is amending it to go up to 250. Tom, the committee recommended 150. So the vote that we're going to take is Mr. Buscaino is requesting an aye vote. The makers of the motion, Martinez, Price, and Bonin, are requesting a no vote. So with that said, Madam Clerk, would you open the roll? Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
3 ayes, 12 noes.
Okay, so that brings us, no, please. That brings us where, Mr. Clerk? We are now voting on the motion that was submitted to us from the committee, plus the friendly amendment of Mr. O'Farrell that Mr. Weezer said is friendly. So we're voting on all of that. So, members, this is the last vote. With that said, Mr. Clerk, would you open the roll? Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 3 noes.
That passes. Congratulations. Okay. Whoa. All right. Members, people in the audience, I did not, and it's my mistake, complete the announcement that I was going to make to you. We will hear this again, Mr. Clerk, the following week, and that will be the last official vote. If you could speak to that.
Correct, sir. The ordinance will go over to October 1st for a second read.
Thank you.
It wasn't a unanimous vote, sir.
And that's the reason why it was not unanimous. Okay, Mr. Englander.
All right, we're going to wait for council chambers to go ahead. If you guys can want to make your way out, unless you want to stay for general public comment, but we'll go ahead and let you make your way out of council chambers. Yes, Mr. LaBonge.
I just wanted to ask on the NFL item number 8, forthwith. I'm not throwing.
That was number 6.
That's item number 6. Sir.
Number 6.
Item number 6, forthwith.
Forthwith, without objection from Mr. LaBonge. All right, we're going to go into general public comments. So we're going to ask, for those of you that are making your way out of chambers, if you can please we still have some business to conduct. Please keep your voices down as much as possible. Thank you so much. Again, if we can ask you to please keep your voices down on your way out, or we'll go ahead and go into recess. We're going to have you guys come back again, I think, next week. So thank you. Thank you. All right, so we've got a big stack of general public comment cards. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead and reconsider an item 1F. So council members will open the roll for reconsideration of 1F. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote. Oh.
14 ayes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and hold that on the desk. It might be for a continuance. In the meantime, we'll take general public comment. In the interest of fairness, we have a big stack of general public comment cards. We have in the council rules allotted 15 minutes for general public comment. I have always believed it's better to hear from everybody, particularly those that had taken their time to come all the way down here, that sat through the entire meeting, that wish to have a voice of general public matters, not anything that was on the agenda. And so rather than limit the time to 15 minutes, which I don't feel is necessarily always fair when we have a big stack of cards, I'd like to get everybody in to give them an opportunity to speak. So in the interest of fairness, we'd like to have a minute for everybody so that way we can get everybody in. And those are the council rules, although, again, if we stop according to the council rules, we'd only get through probably less than half the cards. So with that, we'll go ahead and call Mr. Herman up first, followed by John Walsh, followed by Brian Barajas, followed by Robert Lucas.
All of you in Los Angeles. As you all heard earlier, I was going to get thrown out simply for my display of affection for all the people in the yellow shirts. Now, since I can't be the light for you, and for those of you who said about the Jewish people, what about the homeless people in Los Angeles? You haven't done a damn thing for the persons of Los Angeles who are homeless. And yet the city attorney sits there, Mike Fuhrer here, celebrating Jewish Abba, Abba, Abba. Abba. Please, Lord, let us reside together, for we all love each other. Children of Los Angeles, Abba means father. And father, 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 this is a effed up 1 minute, and here it goes.
Thank you. And Mr. Waldman on the side over there, if you can, Mr. Stuart Waldman, if you can keep your voice down over there. Mr. Waldman.
John Walsh, blogging at
Thank you.
HollywoodHighlands.org, or J. Walsh Confidential, tweeting at Hollywood Dems, and chair of the Anybody But Weezer Hold Your Nose. Sure, she's meaner, but vote for Molina, or vote for Nadine Diaz. Also, the racist editor of the LA, publisher of the LA Times, Butner, is supporting Ashley Swearingen. Take a look. Ashley Swearingen is anti-gay, anti-marriage equality. All the proof is on my website, but the LA Times, which is virulently anti-gay, is now supporting Swearingen. We ask you, incidentally, I just heard that the Hilton in the airport, they just laid off everybody that works at the Hilton, and they're going to turn the airport Hilton into a gay bathhouse.
Thank you. Brian Barajas.
I guess there's a Jeffrey Keitlinger, who's the general manager of the Water District in Southern California. Now, he said that if the conditions of the drought doesn't change, we have 18 months of water. That's not that long if conditions don't change. Now, if anybody's interested in changing the situation, we go with LaRouche's program for water development projects. This means joining Russia and China for nuclear desalination. If you would like to join this Saturday at 1 p.m., go to 3818 Carmel Street in Glendale. This will start Saturday at 1 p.m. It's a live conference event to put in solutions into this drought, but also what the hell we're going to do about space. India just went to the moon, and I congratulate them for their achievement with the Mons orbiter.
Robert Lucas. Okay. Halkins. Ms. Halkins.
Good morning, City Council. I guess the first question I'd ask is, has there been an agenda item with the council for a Greek town in Los Angeles yet? Because I would reserve that for a comment at that time. I don't know if there has been or not.
There was not today.
Not today. Has there been recently, or?
We could ask the clerk to look that up, but I don't believe so.
Okay, then I would just like to make a personal comment
Please.
on the idea of a Greek town in Los Angeles. I'm president of Brentwood Spiritual Studies Institute, nonprofit tax-exempt organization in Los Angeles. Born and raised a Greek-American citizen, my family has participated in Greek community and church life for many years, 3 generations in this country, as well as St. Sophia Cathedral here in Los Angeles. In recent years, I've noticed the concern of a restrictive climate in the expression of Greek culture and worship in the campus area.
I got to cut you off because of the time, but I'm not sure. We'll have to find out who has the largest Greek population of, because we do name towns after areas. But no, thank you very much. We'll look into that. Thank you. I have to move on to the next speaker, but I do appreciate it.
Do you mind, Council, if I could have a minute?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, no, it was. I give you a little extra time because you were asking a question as well. But yeah, thank you. All right, Kat. I got to bring up the next speakers though as well. I'm sorry. They could. If you want to go ahead and side of the ropes and talk, you can go, ma'am. If you want to go to the side of the ropes and talk. So, okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much. Catherine Stokes, followed by Jose Martinez. Followed by Melissa Weiss.
Hi, I'm helping my aunt out with this. Catherine Stokes is retained counsel, and she'd like to request a continuance so that the attorney can review this.
I'm sorry, what was the item? Yeah, it's filled out for general public comment.
Oh, you said Catherine Stokes? You recall there's a hearing regarding a lien on the property?
I did, and it's filled out. It says general public comment. So that's okay. Hold the clock for a second, please. Let's straighten this out.
Oh, I think the officer asked her to fill out a comment card. But
Okay, no, that's okay. What item was the number? It was item 1 something. What's the address?
The address is 9672 North Stornhurst Avenue.
H? Okay. Yeah, we'd already considered in past H, but...
Felipe, this one's yours. Do you
is
want
this
to
one
reconsider?
CD7? Okay, if you want to go ahead and go to the side of the ropes and talk to their staff, and we'll finish up the public comment period and see if we need to revisit this or not. Yes.
Understanding that they filled out a comment card, I'd like to reconsider the item so that we can extend them a couple of weeks to figure out if we can resolve the issue.
Very well. So we'll go ahead, and what we'll do is we'll put that item before us now for reconsideration, colleagues. If we can open the roll for reconsideration on 1H, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and for 1H, we have another one that was put back up on the board as well, but for 1H.
Mr. President, for the benefit of the constituent, if we can sort of know the date that we'll come back to hear that.
Of course, and you're asking for 1 week?
Let's go with whatever 2 weeks.
2 weeks, October 8th, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
okay. Thank you, Councilman. October 8th. It'll be continued till October 8th. Without objection, that'll be the order.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, ma'am, for your patience. And let's go ahead and reset the clock. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we need affordable housing like motels, hotels that cost, I'd say $120, $130, $140, $150, $160 a week with maid service where you can get a bed, a nice private room with cable, a bathroom, possibly a refrigerator like they have in Vegas. I can go up to Vegas and I can find a room in like 10 minutes that I can afford, I can stay in, have a good time, be satisfied. Whereas here in LA, it's a real problem because there's no such thing. And I think there needs to be changed. I think more people need to start and run motels, hotels that are affordable in that price range per week. That's where I think the hotels and motels should focus. And I think that, they need to use like Best Westerns, travel lodges.
Great. Thank you very much. Jose Martinez? I believe we already called Melissa Weiss. Henry? Henry, followed by Wanakala. Melissa Weiss already spoke? Yeah, that was you. Great, got it.
Good morning. As you know, ongoing MOUs show how much the predecessors and successors of Mr. Mike Fuhrer and his colleagues sheltered from the pay of Hackler and Kohler Craftsman and failed to account for yet. Now we know Henry is helping everybody not reimbursed yet. So when do you intend to account for the money you publicly sheltered in the past, failed to account for in the present, and have not established intent to provide in the future. KFI stands for knowledge fights ignorance. And the people at KFI taught me that we are on loan from God, and ignorance and evil only exists when good people do nothing, and y'all doing nothing.
I think Henry should go work for Kentucky Fried Chicken. They'll give him a little more grease than the city does. Anyway, yeah, he says that bitch stands for what? Bring intelligence to City Hall, because they're a bunch of idiots. Victimizing everybody. We can't even have an affordable place to be. And when you do give us an affordable place, it's in the ghetto, where you're afraid to walk because the rats are bigger than the dogs. It's a damn stupid city that cannot give the citizens a place to live and has everybody homeless or has everybody paying some stupid mortgages and rents all their lives, creating modern slavery. You're a bunch of fucking idiots.
That was the entertaining portion of the meeting. We're going to go ahead now to the last item on the agenda, which is 1F, and we're going to continue that for 30 days. 30 days, which will take us to October 24th. So without objection, that'll be the order. Mr. Clerk, where does that take us?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are considered posted and referred.
The desk is clear.
Okay, thank you. Any announcements? Seeing none. Any adjourning motions? Seeing none. Or maybe. Yes. Mr. Krikorian, announcement or adjourning motion?
Adjourning motion.
Okay, so if we can please ask everybody in council chambers, including the audience, to please rise for adjourning motions. Please rise for adjourning motions if you can, if you're able. Thank you so much. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, last week, Los Angeles lost another of the greatest generation with the passing of Joe Medina, who passed away on September 18th. Mr. Medina was born in 1925 here in Los Angeles, lived his whole life here. He was one of 6 children who was born to Odilon and Francisca Medina. He grew up in Dogtown, which later became Chinatown after he was displaced by the construction of the brand new Interstate 10 freeway. His family was relocated then to Boyle Heights, where he grew up with a great diversity that reflects Los Angeles at that time in Boyle Heights, with not only Latino but Jewish and Japanese and Armenian families and others who lived in Boyle Heights at that time. It had a great impact on his later life. In World War II, he was inspired to enlist and quickly got into the mix of things. He was part of the North African campaign under Dwight Eisenhower, and then later moved on after helping to push the Axis powers out of North Africa. He went on to the invasion of Sicily. He was involved in the Battle of Anzio, where he received the first of his combat wounds. Later continuing on through the Rome campaign, and his unit was then later pulled out for the invasion of southern France. As they worked their way up through Europe, he became involved then in the Battle of the Bulge, where he was again wounded, and yet continued on in service to our country, and not only in service to our country, but also through his service in the military there, participated in the rebuilding of Europe as well, helping to rebuild cities and roads as a member of an engineering unit. For his service in the military, he received many commendations and citations, including 2 Purple Hearts, and that service and that commitment to service would be reflected in his values throughout the rest of his life. In 1948, Joe married Stella Reza, and the two remained married for 66 years. Following his service, Joe used the GI Bill to finish his GED and graduate then from high school, and then later went to East LA College while still working full-time. He had a very long and successful woodworking career using some of the skills that he had learned in the military. He rose to the level of a plant superintendent at some of Los Angeles' premier woodcrafting industries, and then many of his works were later seen in motion pictures and television. Like so many other Angelenos, he was a part of that great industry indirectly, and we saw the benefit of that in his work being featured in movies and television. After he retired, he enjoyed reading and spending time with his large and extended family, including his 7 grandchildren. Throughout his life, Joe was somebody who really reflected the fabric and diversity of our great city, which had had a great impact on him, not only in his service in the military, but later in the civil rights era. Fairness and equality was always his hallmark, and like many of that great generation, we all owe so much to Joe and all of those who served alongside of him. His story is like many others from this generation. They volunteered not for fame, not for fortune certainly, not for recognition, but just because they knew it was the right thing to do in helping to build the country that we are privileged to be able to live in today. So I didn't actually have an opportunity to know Joe personally. But I feel like I did because I know so many others of that generation. And my own late father, who passed away, shared all of those same values, and it was what I was raised in. And although I didn't know Joe Medina personally, his values are reflected, I know, in his grandchildren, including Daniel Lopez, a member of my policy team, my transportation advisor, somebody who's been a very critically important part of my team for many years. And I see the values that Joe Medina fostered throughout his life in the life that Daniel is continuing to live in service to our city. So it's an honor for me to be able to stand with all of you and ask that we adjourn this meeting of the Los Angeles City Council in memory of Joe Medina, and we extend our heartfelt condolences to his entire extended family.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other adjourning motions, we are dismissed. Thank you so much.